I have toured over 3,000 homes in the 20 years that I've been working in real estate. And in that time, I have figured out ways to quickly and efficiently tell the gems from the duds so you don't have to. So in this video, I'm gonna go over 20 years of experience, 3,000 homes, and distill it down to 8 tips that you can use to pick the good homes from the bad homes in minutes. And the last tip will help you do it even in seconds in some cases. So stick around for that. Let's get right into it. Now, like I said, these 8 tips are battle tested over the last 20 years in real estate. And this first one helps you pick the gems from the duds really efficiently, and that is to choose spaces over finishes. So what do I mean by that? I mean, pick efficient spaces that work well for your family over prettier finishes. Case in point, I showed 2 homes the other day. Both of them were around 1,700 square feet. One of them had done a really awkward kitchen remodel that made there no space to put a table or have a dining space or to host any sort of family events. Now, that one had the finishes that every buyer wants. It had the white shaker cabinets. It had the white quartz countertops. It was absolutely gorgeous inside. But the spaces were truly awkward and over time not gonna work well for a family. But look, people are making a big decision here, often in a 10 to 20 minute showing. On average, my clients spend about 20 minutes per home when we show them. So it's hard to really think all that through, and it's easy to get a little bit starstruck by the pretty finishes. Now, the second home I showed, which was almost the exact same square footage, had really well-designed spaces. It had an open concept layout. It had room for a dining space, room to entertain the family, room for the kids to play. It had bedrooms with actual closets in it versus the other one had carved up extra bedrooms by sacrificing closet space to get some 10 by 12 boxes into that small square footage. So layout matters most. I've been in 1,200 square foot homes that live really big, and I've been in 2,000 square foot homes that live really small and chopped up. The second home I showed, the finishes were not as nice. We had some maple cabinets from the 90s. We had some older brown granite. The cabinets were gonna need a paint job. The counters would probably need replacing in the near term in order to get it up to the pretty level of the first house. But once you did that, you would have a house that is not just pretty, but lives well. And lives well is way harder to create than pretty. It is harder to readjust spaces, move walls, add square footage than it is to just pretty something up. So my first tip here is don't get starstruck by pretty finishes. There are a lot of people that remodel or flip houses that do a good job of putting really pretty finishes in really awkward floor plans. So take an extra 5 minutes when you tour a property and think about your life in that property. Think about the big events. Where are we gonna put the Christmas tree? Where are we gonna host Thanksgiving? When we do my kid's graduation party, where are we gonna do that? Is the yard laid out in a way that I can have a big 4th of July barbecue? The things you like to do, the way you like to live, make sure that floor plan works. And if not, choose the slightly uglier house with the better floor plan every time. It'll save you thousands, if not tens and tens of thousands of dollars and a lot of heartache and problems over time. All right, if you're getting anything at all out of this video, hit the like button, click subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so you don't miss the next video with crucial information to help you with your home purchase journey. All right, tip number 2 to make sure you're picking the gems from the duds on your home tours is pay attention to storage. Now look, I know this sounds a little funny, but often, especially in today's market in 2025, where most people are having to look at smaller square footage homes in order to make them affordable because of the high prices, when you get to smaller square footage homes, storage can become a real issue. And when you have a home, especially that's staged, and we'll talk about that a little later, but when you have a home that's staged, it's real easy to look at it and think, wow, it's beautiful. Look at this open living space. Look how clean and sleek everything is. But you're not gonna live that way. You got all your kids' toys you gotta store somewhere. You got all your food you gotta store somewhere. You got all your blenders and kitchen equipment you gotta store somewhere, and the china for Thanksgiving you gotta store somewhere. And you've got all the kids, bikes and paddle boards and all that fun stuff, at least if you're here in amazing Northern California where we live, where it's an adventure sports paradise, you have all that fun play outside stuff you gotta store somewhere. And if you're not thinking about that on the walkthrough, and often people aren't, often people are looking at kitchens and bathrooms. Kitchens and bathrooms sell houses, but you don't live in bathrooms, right? You live in and amongst all of your stuff. And if you don't have a place for that stuff, then the house feels small, cramped, and messy all the time. So take a couple extra minutes as you're touring each house and think about, Where am I going to put the linens? Where am I going to put the towels? Where am I going to put all the extra cooking equipment? Is there a pantry cabinet? Is there a walk-in pantry? Where am I going to store all the food? Sometimes in these smaller homes that have been remodeled, there simply isn't a lot of food storage or a lot of kitchen gadget storage. So make sure you're paying attention to that stuff. Storage is a big issue, and not having enough storage really makes a home live small and messy, which really wears on your mental health over time and creates a lot of fights in families. So storage is a big deal. Pay attention to storage. It's a quick way to tell the gems from the duds. Right about now, you're wondering who I am and why you should be listening to me about real estate or touring houses or anything at all, and that's a pretty fair question. My name is Rich Curtis and I'm with EXP Realty. I've been selling homes here for over 20 years now, and markets ranging from the Great Recession to the COVID market insanity to the current trade war and everything in between. So when it comes to real estate, I've got you covered. My goal with this channel is to help you make the highest quality real estate decisions you can from the comfort of your couch. So to that end, let's jump right back into our list of 8 ways you can pick the good houses from the bad ones on your home tours and save yourself tens of thousands of dollars in mistake money by picking the wrong home. Tip number 3, look beyond the staging furniture. Look, staging is a really great tool for listing properties. I use it all the time. Properties that are staged, national statistics, they sell for more and they sell quicker, and they can actually sell for quite a bit more because it makes the home look amazing and it allows people to envision themselves living in a home, especially a home that's really sleekly decorated like that. But let's face it, most of us aren't interior decorators. Most of us don't have as good a taste as the stagers, and most of us don't have the budget to buy all that fancy furniture, especially when we've just purchased a home. But more than that, we stage a home with less than 50% of the stuff in it that you'll have in it when you live there. And in my opinion, it's more like 80% less. I mean, it's really bare bones. You don't have all the stuff you store in there. You don't have all the furniture you use in there. You don't have all your kids' stuff jamming up the bedrooms in there. So when you look at a home with staging furniture in it, it's real easy for that home to feel big and bright and open and airy, but it might not fit all of your stuff. So take a second. Ignore the staging furniture, look beyond it, because you're gonna fill that home up a lot faster than you think, and you're gonna have 50 to 80% more stuff in it than those stagers do. So just think it through. Where's my couch gonna go? Where's my TV gonna go? Is this room gonna fit my king bed? Is the primary suite in this house going to be wall-to-wall bed with my king bed and my nightstands in it? Or is there room for that? Oh, I have kids who share a room. Is this room really going to fit their bunk beds and all their toys? Right? You need to sit for a minute and look beyond that staging furniture and really think through what life in that house will be like with everything you are bringing to the home. This goes hand in hand with that. Pay attention to storage from tip number 2. It's really important to think through the way you use a home, because someone has carefully staged that home to make it look as best as it can be. And that's the job of the listing agent. I don't fault them for it. But when we're going through as a buyer, it's my job, and even more importantly, your job, because you're spending the money, to make sure that this home is going to fit all of your stuff, all of your family, and live the way you want it to live. And over 20 years, I've seen a lot of people talk themselves into smaller, prettier homes that just don't fit all their stuff. And once they move in, they are packed to the gills in that little house. And it means they're gonna wanna get out of that house sooner. They're gonna wanna move sooner. And there's a lot of costs that come with doing all of that. So save yourself the money. It is literally tens of thousands of dollars in cost to sell a home and then go buy another one. And you can save yourself all of that by just picking the right home in the first place and spending a couple extra minutes in your showing thinking things through. Bring a tape measure if you want to. Measure things out. If you know you've got some massive furniture, if you're the person with the king size 4-poster canopy bed and 14 high boy dressers in your room, if you know you have a lot of furniture that is big and unique, bring a tape measure with you on showings. Take a couple extra minutes. Make sure it's gonna fit before you purchase that home. This is a crucial step and it'll save you a lot of heartache down the road. Before we jump into tip number 4, why does all this matter? Why does this matter especially now in 2025? Well, look, we are looking at price reductions right now. And if you watch my podcast episodes, you'll know that I expect some price reductions to continue throughout 2025 and potentially 2026. Now, this doesn't matter at all if you meet my 5 real estate fundamentals. I'll link to that video at the end of this one. I recommend you watch that. It's the 5 things that every buyer should make sure they meet before buying in any market, but especially right now. If you you meet the 5 fundamentals, one of those is to have a long time horizon for holding the property, which means a short-term loss won't really affect you unless you mess up on these 8 things and you find you have to sell that house and buy a different one because you picked wrong in the first place. That will require a sale in a shorter period of time, and that will cost you a lot of money, even produce a loss on the home if you have to sell it in the next year or 2. So even more than in other markets, like in a rapidly appreciating market, if you're buying in 2021 in COVID, well, if you messed up there, you could just turn around and sell it and probably make money in a year. However, we're not in that market right now. So it's really important to pay attention to these tips, especially the last one. Stick around for that one so that you don't make a mistake that costs you a lot of money in the 2025 real estate market. Now let's jump right back into it with number 4. Tip number 4, watch where the bedrooms are placed. And I mean placed in relation to the street and the neighbors. Now, this is one that happens all the time. I was literally just touring a home with a first-time buyer the other day, and they really were falling in love with the place. They really liked the home. And I took them back into the primary suite and I said, look, pay attention to where this thing is. This is facing the street. You have a massive window at the end of your bed facing the street and facing your neighbor's driveway. That means at night you're gonna have the lights of cars driving by flashing in. When your neighbor backs out, those red lights as he's hitting the brakes, as he's reversing, are gonna be shining right into your bed in the primary suite. Now you can get some blackout curtains, mitigate that. Maybe it doesn't matter to you, but it might matter to you, and it's an important thing to take note of. Also, do you like to sleep with the windows wide open at night? Are you gonna feel comfortable sleeping with the windows wide open at night facing the road? Now, for a lot of our properties here in Placerville, you're out in the boonies on acreage, nobody's coming by, who cares, and you're not gonna have the road lights in. But this home happened to be over in Rockland, California. And for that one, there's gonna be a lot of people driving down that road, and you are in more of a subdivision where there's just more action and more people roaming about at night. So are you gonna feel comfortable with the windows open? Is the light pollution coming in from the street gonna bother you? Are there street lights? So your bedroom is facing the street and now there are street lights. Now, what if it's not the primary suite? What if it's a kid's bedroom? Well, are you gonna feel comfortable with your little kid's bedroom facing the street? Are you gonna feel comfortable with your kid sleeping with an open window with their bedroom facing the street? These are important things to consider that just don't play through the mind during a 20-minute real estate tour. You're looking at, oh, look how big the master bedroom is. Look how pretty the finishes in the kitchen are. Look how big the bedrooms are for my kids. You're not necessarily thinking about where are they facing and what's the light gonna be like and how am I gonna feel about this. So this is a really important one that a lot of people skip. Pay attention to where the bedrooms are, where they're facing, whether they're behind a fence or in front of a fence, window-wise, and think through what your comfort zone is gonna be with all of that. If you're like members of my family who have to sleep in a dark cave with no light and no sound in order to be able to get to sleep, then you're gonna wanna not pick the one with the primary suite facing the road. Another one that people don't consider is, even if it's not the bedrooms, homes facing a T intersection. Now, I didn't even think of this one myself, but I told you I've been doing this for 20 years. And I was touring with some clients from Taiwan who were followers of feng shui, and they would not buy homes that were on the opposite side of a T intersection for that reason, because of the light pollution. So when a car comes up to that T intersection, their headlights are going right in the front of the house. Even if it's just your living room at the front of the house, if you're sitting there trying to watch TV at night and every time a car comes up to that T intersection to enter your subdivision, their lights are going right into your living room window, that's gonna get pretty darn annoying over time. And it's something you should think about when you're choosing a home so that you save yourself from having to sell out of that home and buy another one if you find this is a deal breaker for you. Tip number 5. All right, we are moving through these pretty quickly. Hopefully you're getting a bunch out of this. Like I said, if you are, hit that subscribe button, but make sure you stick around for tip number 8 because it is my primary, fastest, best way to tell instantly when you walk in a home whether this one is worth seeing or not. Stick around for that. But tip number 5 right here is to prioritize single family homes over multi-story homes. Now look, if you're in love with multi-story homes and you've always loved them, buy what you love, okay? That's primary, that's the first thing. Buy what you like, buy what you love. But from a real estate perspective, single family homes have a lot of advantages that I think people don't think through. Number one, better resale value. Single family homes have a wider buyer pool. People who have physical condition challenges, bad knees, bad backs, don't do stairs well. People who are older or aging and don't want to have stairs involved. People who might have some physical challenges being in wheelchairs or on crutches, those sort of things. Stairs aren't going to be a great solution for them. And you wipe out all those people from your buyer pool if you buy a multi-story home. So single-story homes have the widest swath of the buyer pool accessible to them, and square foot for square foot, a single-family home will sell for more money than a two-story or three-story home every single time. The only exception being if, in order to get that single-story home on the lot, they ate up all of the lot square footage or acreage, and there's really no yard because they went single-story, then that could affect value. But bread and butter wise, all day long, most of the time, your single story homes are going to sell for more than a similar square footage multi-story home. But those even aren't the reasons that I think you should consider sticking to single family homes. The main reason is that it depends on how long you're going to keep this house. I get a lot of people who move, especially up here to the foothills. They've retired and they want to move up to the mountains. They've always wanted to move up to the mountains, and they come up here in their 60s and they buy a multi-story home on acreage, and they tell me it's their last house, and no matter what I do to talk them out of it, they won't listen. And I know it's not their last house, because that house that works in your 60s isn't going to work in your 70s or 80s. If you're lucky enough to make it to your 70s and 80s, and I hope you do, then those stairs might not work for you. That multi-level or tri-level might not work for you. Maintaining that acreage might not work for you. So for my young first-time buyers, young families, maybe this doesn't matter so much for you because you plan on buying up and having a couple of other homes in your life. But especially for my older or retiree clients, really pay attention to this. Single story homes are going to age better with you. And once you're on a fixed income in retirement, the tens of thousands of dollars in cost it takes to sell that two-story home and you can't handle it anymore and move to the one-story home really eats into your retirement budget that you're using for your fixed income. And that's a real bummer. So if you want to buy once and lock in your cost of living in retirement, buy a single story home if you can. Look, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. There is no blanket real estate advice that is good advice. Real estate is hyper local and, more importantly, hyper personal. So if you've made it this far in the video, or you get to the end and you're thinking, I'm still not sure how to evaluate homes or what's going to work best for me and my family, reach out to me via the contact information on your screen or in the description down below. Like I said, I've been selling homes for over 20 years. I've helped hundreds of families just like yours decide where to land and what's going to work best for them. And I'm always happy to help and give you a personalized plan just for you and your family. All right, now back to our last few tips. Make sure to wait for tip number 8. That's a big one on how you can pick the gems from the duds on your next home tour. All right, tip number 6 here for evaluating homes while you're touring them with your realtor is to pay attention to systems and choose solid systems over pretty finishes. Do you see a theme here? The pretty finishes really distract people and they miss the things that are going to cost them a lot of money, especially if you're sure this has been a flipped home. Oftentimes, if it's not an experienced flipper, they will do all the pretty stuff and leave all of the bones and structural stuff alone, and that's a lot of cost to you, and even sometimes requires you to rip out some of the pretty stuff they've done to fix some of the stuff they didn't fix. So as you're touring a home, pay attention to the roof. Ask your realtor. If your realtor's been doing this a while and they're worth their salt, they can look at a roof and tell you whether it's decent or not. You're still going to want a professional roof inspection, but I can look up at a roof and tell you whether it's shot or not really easily. You're going to want to pay attention to electrical and how things are working on the house. Turn the switches on and off. Take a look at what's going on. Look for things like, 2-prong to 3-prong plug adapters and things like that that show that, all right, we've still got some old wiring in this house. If there's a basement that you can go into, then take a look in the basement. What are you seeing in terms of wiring and plumbing in there? Take a look at the HVAC system. Is that really old and beat and flogged out, or is that HVAC system newer and shinier and looking like it's in pretty good shape? Again, you're still going to want to pay a professional to inspect all these systems for you, but right away you can look at something and tell if it's old as dirt or not in terms of the HVAC system or the air conditioning condenser outside or the furnace in the closet inside the home. You can look at these things and really quickly tell whether someone has been maintaining this home and really maintaining the structure and the bones of it or not. Pay attention to the trim, the wood trim around the windows and the doors and the garage door and all of that. And look, does it look really dry rotted out to where this person's been kind of asleep at the wheel and not maintaining this thing? I would choose a well-maintained home that has had the roof done and the HVAC done and the old single pane windows switched out for dual pane windows all day, every day over the home that has the prettier finishes. I can do the prettier finishes cheaper than I can do all that structural stuff. Also, all of that structural big system stuff, unfortunately, really doesn't convey a lot of value in the marketplace, and that's why the flippers don't do it. People pretty much assume that when they buy a house, it's going to have a decent electrical system, a decent plumbing system, decent windows, and a decent HVAC system. So if you've replaced those things, it doesn't get you the same bang for your buck that the pretty finishes do. That's why the flippers do the pretty finishes and sometimes ignore the systems. But if you buy the uglier house with the solid systems, all that expense has been done for you, you can slowly make it prettier over time, and all the things you're spending your money on get you more market value when you go to sell. So it's a better place to be spending your money because you don't have to address the structures and the system of the house. So pay attention, work with a realtor that's been doing this over 10 years or more, who can give you really good guidance. And on a showing, by the end of a showing, I can tell you whether this thing's gonna have a lot of repair bills or not, whether it's got good bones or not. And then we follow up with professional inspections to make sure we haven't missed anything. But don't get sidetracked by those pretty finishes. Look at the bones, choose something that's structurally sound and has updated systems over pretty finishes every time. All right, tip number 7, and this is a big one, pay attention to smells. The minute you crack that door and the minute you walk in, what you smell can tell you whether it's worth continuing that showing or not. Let me explain. There are a few smells that are just really, really hard, if not impossible, to get out of a home once they've gotten in. And those two are smoke and cat urine. So smoke, if there's been a smoker in the house for a long time, in order to get rid of that, you have to use like a really hardcore kills sealant paint to try to seal that smoke in and that smoke smell in. And you can see on the walls of homes where someone was a smoker, nicotine stains, actually almost like water stains, like dribbling down the wall, dark stains, nicotine stains. And even in some houses where people have painted over them with just latex paint instead of doing a primer and sealant first and then latex paint, you'll see over a number of years those nicotine stains come through that latex paint and come back to the surface and show again. And the smell comes with it. It is very hard to get rid of the smell in a smoker's house. And unless you love that house and you can't live without it, just don't bother. If you walk in and you smell the smell of smoke, bounce out and go buy another one. You don't even need to finish that showing. It's that big of a deal. It's that hard. It's that expensive to get rid of. Now, even worse than that is cat urine. Over the years, I've had a number of people buy houses with, that were smokers' houses, and they've worked with it and they've dealt with it. But cat urine is nearly impossible to get rid of. You have to get rid of this, whatever surfaces and finishes they hit, and it's hard to tell all of what that is. At a minimum, the flooring's got to come out. Oftentimes, a lot of sheetrock's got to come out. Sometimes cabinets got to come out. I have been in homes where they had to literally rip out the subflooring because the cat urine had soaked in the subflooring and the smell just wouldn't go away. And this can be kind of elusive. I've had people buy a cat urine house, rip out the flooring, paint the subfloor, put all new flooring in, think they were good, and then you get to summer, you get a hot day, the house heats up, and there's that smell again. They didn't get rid of it. So 100%, in my opinion, if you crack, and you'll tell, as soon as you crack the door and walk in, you'll get the cat pee smell in these houses. If you smell the cat pee smell, just close the door back up. Don't bother the tour, because if you do the tour and you fall in love with the house, you might convince yourself to make a bad choice here. Never ever buy a house with cat urine smell in it. Let somebody else deal with it. It's very hard to get rid of, and it becomes an issue when you go to sell as well, because one, you've got to disclose it. You know it smells like cat pee on a hot day. And two, you have to try to fix it and mitigate it, and it can really put a wrench in the works for your sale down the road. Even after spending tens of thousands of dollars to mitigate this, some people are still stuck with the smell and the problem when they go to sell. So in my opinion, this one is a no-go. Don't buy smoker houses or cat pee houses. All right, here we are at our final tip, tip number 8. And I've been telling you the whole time, this is the most important one, and I really think it is. Tip number 8 for evaluating homes when you walk in them is to trust your gut. Now listen, this might sound a little hooey-wooey or sure, yeah, Rich, this is ridiculous, but give me a couple of minutes, let me explain. When you walk into this home, this is gonna be the hub of your life. This is gonna be the place you're gonna raise your kids if you choose to do that. This is gonna be the place you have your family holidays. You're gonna spend more time here than anywhere else on the planet. And when you walk in, you just get a feel or a sense of the place right away. And I've been doing this for 20 years. And I am not a hooey-wooey, hippy-dippy kind of guy when it comes to this sort of stuff, but you get a feeling in some houses right away when you walk in that isn't good. And you get a feeling right away when you walk in some houses that is really good or is great. And I might get a different feeling than you do just based on my experiences in the world, and it's important to listen to that. If you walk into a house and you get a weird feeling right away, do not bother to try to push through that feeling and see if this is a good house. There's plenty of other houses. I can show you a ton of houses for sale. You don't have to pick this one. I don't have a dog in that fight. I don't care which house you pick. I want you to pick the right one for your family. So if you walk into a house and you're like, bah, this just doesn't feel good, just bounce. Let's go look at another one. Don't try to push through that feeling. Now, sometimes it's not right away. Sometimes you're touring the house and by the end you're just like, nah, it doesn't feel right. Or you go into a certain room and it just doesn't feel right. Or you go into the yard or whatever and it just doesn't feel right. Trust your gut. You don't want to spend the kind of money you have to spend to buy a home today, especially here in California, and buy one that just feels off to you. It's not a good idea. It's not worth it. You've got plenty of other options. I don't care how good of a deal this house is. It's not worth taking it on if it doesn't feel good. And this is your best and first line of defense. It's instant. Our bodies are tuned and trained to keep us safe and to make us feel a certain way about things in order to do that. And if you walk in and your body gives you some alarm bells, don't push through that. Just bounce. Just get out of there. Trusting your gut is the number one way to make sure you don't make a bad choice when buying a home. And look, after doing this for over 20 years now, I can tell in 30 seconds, a minute, whether my clients are gonna buy the house we've walked into or not. Now, I still have to go through the full 20-minute tour on all the ones that I know they're not gonna buy, but I know they're not gonna buy them. When someone walks into the house they're gonna buy, I can watch their face light up, I can watch them smile, I can watch their body language change, their shoulders relax, and they have an instant reaction to that house. And I know by the end of this tour, they're gonna be talking offers on this house. And I can tell when we walk into one that's not a good fit, they tense up, they make a face. I can tell right away. I can tell just by someone's body language whether this is the house for them or not. And if you take just a couple of seconds when you first walk into a house and pay attention to your reaction and your partner's reaction, if your kids are touring with you, your kids' reactions, you'll know too within a few seconds whether you should bother continuing this tour or not. And if you got a bad feeling, don't waste your time, bounce out. You know better than anyone the home that's gonna work right for you and your family. Don't let any salesy jerk try to convince you, well, just keep going, let's see what it has to offer. No, if it doesn't feel right, get out of there, go look at a different one. This one tip alone will save you tens of thousands of dollars, but more than that, a lot of heartache and discomfort. So pay attention to this tip. All right, that wraps up our discussion of the 8 tips for you to use to make sure you're picking the best house for you and having really efficient home tours, and making sure you don't pick the wrong house and cost yourself tens of thousands of dollars and lots of time, pain, and heartache. This is 20 years of experience, 3,000 homes toured, all wrapped up into 8 tips to help you make the highest quality real estate decision you can, which of course is my goal with every video on this channel. Now, to that end, if you want to go deeper in how you can make the best real estate decisions possible, you might want to check out this video right here on my 5 real estate fundamentals, the 5 things every buyer should have before considering buying a home in any market, and especially in 2025. If you want more tips and tricks and market updates, you can click this playlist down here for my Informed Home Buyer podcast playlist, and that'll give you a lot of deeper dives into a lot of subjects that will help you make good real estate decisions. Either way, thanks for watching, thanks for making it to the end with me, and I'll see you on the next one.